All right, welcome y'all to the Trinitarian Church podcast. I have with me Adam Gibbs and Irish Dave O'Riordan, and we
Hello.
are going through the Bible podcast. We're going chapter by chapter through Proverbs right now, and we are on chapter 10 of Proverbs. It says the Proverbs of Solomon. Y'all, what are some of the themes of this the particular chapter? This is one of the longer ones and has a lot of imagery in it, but what are some of the overall takeaways that you see here? Adam?
It's continuing the main theme that we've been with for a long time, just the wise contrasted with the foolish. In this one, it seems to some concrete stuff, right? The wise are going to work and therefore going to... It seems like this could be a chapter that the prosperity gospel would really focus on, but I don't think that you'd have to go there. But the wise are going to do things... to be able to provide for themselves and their families. And the fool may have some laziness. I don't think you can go backwards. You definitely can't say everyone who's in poverty is a fool and everyone who is wealthy is righteous. You definitely can't. But you can say these are some principles that that make things more likely in life.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note the prosperity gospel has been around for a while. For a reason. You know, it's not just a recent trend. In Jesus' day, they were asking questions about, you know, if you're doing well, aren't you blessed? Like there were a lot of questions, I think, because of chapters like this. But to me, the contrast is it's just showing that the fruit of righteousness and wisdom and the fruit of foolishness and evil are going to be shown in the person's life. And some of that's going to be overt. You can see that someone's laziness is going to lead to poverty. But some of that's going to be a little bit more subtle. Some of that's going to be a little bit more interpersonal. Some of that's going to be, you notice by the way the person's, it keeps talking about the tongue. You notice in conversation how the person is doing things. Verse 7, the memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. Like you see these things over time. And I think that's the contrast that's really being made in this chapter is wise people, you see the fruit of that. You see it when you interact. Dave, what about you?
Well, the richness or the provisions being talked about in this chapter itself, though. I mean, is it really talking about worldly riches? I mean, what are you guys' thoughts there?
I think sometimes it is. I think sometimes everything in Proverbs is an allegory, as well as something that on its face is a general principle. And so, to me, I mean, it's sometimes describing real riches. Yeah, well, Adam, I'm interested in your thoughts here because I've got a whole rant in my pocket that I'll save for now.
Well, I do think the riches, it makes a lot more sense to be thinking of eternal stuff, but it's a contrast of the riches and those who go hungry. And I think that's real here and now, people who don't have what they need to make it through today. So I would think some of the riches might be riches the world would consider as well.
There seems like there's practical things being laid out here. Like you mentioned, you work hard, the odds are you're going to get something out of it. You don't work, the odds are you're going to feel that. But I think that there's pieces to this, though. I think in verse 22, the blessing of the Lord makes a person rich. I was reading that this morning, and that's one where I started to think about different type of riches that are not monetary or maybe not in that way. And so really what does that rich mean? And I think I think there is some practical examples in here, but I certainly don't think this is lending itself just to having a wealthy life,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. To me, Proverbs is speaking generally about everything. It's saying the general principle is this. The general principle that happened. These are ways that the world generally works. And then Ecclesiastes is the complement to that. That says, here's the exception. Here's the exception that shows us we don't know that much. Where Proverbs is calling us to say, it's saying, look at the seasons, look at the trends, look at these patterns happening in the world. This should tell you something about the importance of wisdom. Is every wise person rich? No. But don't you notice that the wiser and more righteous people tend to have these richer, fuller lives? It's calling you to that. Where Ecclesiastes is coming with this like counterpunch of, but then look at this, look at this wise, righteous person that dies in poverty. Look at this exception. Look at that. We don't really know anything, but both are kind of pointing us towards God, just in different contrasting ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
guys, what are some of the verses that stick out to you here?
I like
some of the ones that punch you in the gut.
Yeah, one of the ones I like is, and you can tell me how this has applied to your life, but when it says too much talk leads to sin, and be sensible and keep your mouth shut, verse 19. We see that throughout Scripture where there's definitely the mindset of like, you got, be slow to speak, quick to listen type of sentiment seems to be throughout. But it's such a true saying, and I think we've had this conversation before, Craig, where, in a lot of settings I tend to be quiet. Sometimes it's because I just, I'm nervous in front of people, but other times too I want to hear out the room because, like, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble too if you just keep going and rambling, So for me, that's one that I just connected with as soon as I read out. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. What a good line.
That's great.
Yeah. To me, the one that stuck out to me is similar. Verse 23. Doing wrong is like a joke to a fool, but wisdom is pleasure to a man of understanding. I feel like both those verses, 19 and 23, and there's a bunch others in this section here, that are what they're describing is that people of foolishness and wickedness have a lot of internal tension in them. They talk because they need to talk. They joke because they need to joke. And it's saying that those are signs, those are little outward signs that show you this is someone who does not have the peace of God and has trouble connecting to the righteousness of God. And I think that's so true. And so to me, that's why, your average, righteous, wise person is going to be talking less. They don't need to talk. That's, I think, Dave, while you feel out the room, you don't need everybody to hear what you have to say. I was just talking with Jason and Adam about how both of them are just so willing to drop out at a moment's notice on the podcast, and they're just like, okay, yeah, fill somebody else in. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to put myself out there. I don't need to be heard. That comes from a spiritual place, and I appreciate that about the two of you guys.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's a good call out, because under that is that there's a humility there that exists with people like that, which is great. What do you think of verse 10 where it says people who wink at wrong cause trouble? I'm reading from the NLT, but it's I just think that sounds fantastic. People who wink at wrong cause trouble.
In ESV, I've got whoever winks the eye. Adam, what do you have there
NIV
for verse
is
10?
saying whoever winks maliciously causes grief.
Yeah. I think they're just trying to show that context, right, of the wink, the secret, secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. That was more true then. I guess it's true now, right? Because if I'm winking at somebody, if I'm sharing that secret, it's usually not that healthy. It's usually showing, again, that tension in me needs to go somewhere. Adam, what are the verses for you that stick out?
Yeah, the verse right before that one is one that sticks out the most for me. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. I know both sides of that coin, right? I think we all do, that there are times that we are walking in integrity and everything is, you feel more peace. And when you are walking around with a secret and knowing that you're going to be found out, it's not a good thing. It's definitely not a pleasant thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, what are some of the application points here? If someone said, what are some things I can take from this chapter to grow closer to God, to change my life? What advice would you give them?
If you want to go, Adam.
Sure. Maybe we're both taking away the takeaway of be slow to speak.
I don't know.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
We're modeling it. Nice.
That's
awesome.
funny.
No, I mean, I think it is. And we talked some about it's not that it's just literal here and now physical stuff, but that is a part of it that that our lives, we need to be active and serving and doing stuff. And that laziness can be, at least for me, it can be a temptation that can lead to ruin at times. I think that's a good takeaway.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
Well, I mean, these are just good. I mean, if you think about what these things are laying out, it's not like these things are negative. You don't live a negative life by applying a lot of these things, So it's just a good reminder of this short time that we do have, this vapor, as they say, how you can best live this life. And there's such really good practical things that you can deploy here on a day-to-day basis, I mean, like we talked about, I loved slowing down. And maybe it's not even just about speaking, it's just slowing down in everything, that you do each day.
Yeah.
I think there's wisdom in that because we're in such a rush all the time. I know I am. But even whether it's your words, your thoughts, or what you do each day, just slowing down, I think is a powerful takeaway from this, but also knowing that a lot of what we read here is God's desire is to bless and to really for our benefit, in a way that glorifies Him. And I think that's just a really good thought too to take away, is sometimes you could get into your mind that, you're like that wicked person and things are all coming after you and that it's just disaster or you feel oppression. But no, there's a life to be lived here that has so much potential to bless others. And then in doing so, you'll be blessed through it. But a lot of it are these practical things, that are laid out here. So I think it's just a good reminder.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway here is I think you can take a lot of the warnings here as a way to, here's the blueprint for how you avoid people that are wicked. And here are some things that you can use to check yourself to make sure that you're righteous. To me, I think I want to see the signs of the wicked in me so I know what to surrender to God. And I think that's my takeaway. That's kind of the application for this chapter. Is I don't want to look and see in other people, okay, there's the winking of the eye. How am I doing that? How am I getting rid of my tension? Making someone else the butt of the joke. Someone else, how am I getting rid of my tension where I need to interact in a certain way? I need to talk about something. Where I'm not going to God, I'm going to other people. And that the fruit of those parts of my heart that aren't surrendered to God can be seen in relationships. And so to me, this is yet again, a mirror that I can use to kind of look at myself and say, okay, God, kind of what Dave's talking about, where am I speeding up? Where am I running around like a crazy person because I haven't really surrendered to God in this? Where is an area of my life where I can slow down, where I can bring more peace into it? And so I think if we apply Scripture to ourselves, I think that takes us to a good place. Well, thank you so much for everyone that's listening. We appreciate any excuse to go through Proverbs. It's an amazing book with so much wisdom in it and the ways that God speaks to us through it. So God bless y'all. Have a good one.